Hi everybody, welcome to Tuesday Tutorials. I'm Donna Salazar. Today I'm going to show you some fun techniques using my Mixed Media Inks embossing powders that match my Mixed Media inks and my emboss gloss, both from ClearSnap. They're going to be more artsy kind of techniques, things that you might not typically do with embossing powder and embossing fluid. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm using my Leather Mixed Media Inks embossing powder. It has a little bit of a metallic look to it, and the emboss gloss that it has a little wand. It allows you to get into small spaces and do more detailed work with your embossing powders. We're going to start with the Queen Bee tag. I'm going to use my Queen Bee stamp and my Sparrow Chalks inks. I'll just ink up the stamp, and then I'm going to stamp it down in the bottom right hand corner. Now I always really overjuice my stamp, so I'm going to dry this with a heat gun just to make sure it's completely dry, because the specific technique we're using, you need your image to be dry before you go on to the next step. So before I add the emboss gloss, I'm going to use my vintage mixed media inks and a paintbrush. I'm going to paint in the small area on the bee's body and the area up on top. You don't have to be careful. And then I'm just blending it in with my finger so that you can see the darker brown image underneath. Now I'm going to use the emboss gloss, and I'm going to go over the wings as well as the yellow area of the body. And I'm also going to add a bit to the crown that is up on top. And I'm just adding little dots up in that area. I want to make sure that the image, or the areas of the image that I want to be covered with embossing powder, are completely covered. And now I'm using thick clear embossing powder from ClearSnap. I'll remove the excess powder and then heat set the image. And this is what the bee looks like once the embossing is set. Now I'm going to use my Mixed Media Inks in Leather with the Leather embossing powder. I'm going to ink up my stanza stamp. And I'm not trying to really ink every bit of the stamp because I want the image to look kind of grungy. So I'm holding it kind of on an angle. I'm barely tapping it down in some areas, pressing heavier in one spot than another until I like the coverage. And now I'm going to take the embossing powder and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of it here and there. Because it does have that metallic look, I want some areas to be just the ink by itself and some to have that little bit of sheen to it. So I've tapped off the excess, and now I'm going to heat set the embossing powder and dry the mixed media inks. And this is what the image looks like once the embossing powder is set. Manila tags have a little bit of a coating on them, so you can spray them down with water and it will stay on top of the tag. Then you can go back over with some spritz and it will let the pigment and the mica kind of spread all over the project. For this particular tag, I want there to be more blue down in the corner, so I'm kind of dabbing it up from the paper. I'm going to use my hand to kind of add a little bit more around the bee, because the areas that we have embossed are going to resist the spritz. So having a little bit more of the color around the direct area close to the embossed areas is going to make that technique show up a little bit more. So I'm going to use a baby wipe and I'm just going to dab up the spritz, and then I am going to dry it with a heat gun. Now for this tag, we're going to be getting this texture in the background by using something that is not typically mixed with embossing powder, and that is this flexible modeling paste. Now to put the pattern onto the tag, I'm going to use this art screen from ClearSnap. And I don't want it to be thick on here, so I'm going to use my hand to put it on. So I am pressing the modeling paste through the holes, and I'm pressing down pretty hard because I want to make sure that it's thin. I've removed the screen and I want to clean that right away because I don't want the modeling paste to dry on there. I am sprinkling the leather embossing powder onto the modeling paste. I tapped off the excess and now I am heat setting the embossing powder and drying the modeling paste at the same time. So once I'm done, this is what it looks like. I distress the edges using my Distress It All. And I'm going to add some spritz. And again, I like to add the water first, and I've added some wood stain and some sea breeze. And I just move the tag around until the drips are going in the way I like. Once it's dry, I use the emboss gloss on the edges, and I'm kind of moving in and out, being on the very edge and then going towards the center because I want it to be more organic and loose. This is the benefit of using the wand rather than just an ink pad with emboss fluid on it. Then I add the embossing powder, and this is the leather embossing powder again. Adding it to the edges and tap off the excess. Return the excess to the little pot, and then you're going to heat set. And this is sped up so you can see the embossing powder as it is melting and it becomes metallic. Once it is completely done, then you can see the edges are very distressed, but you have something along the edges that looks like ink distressing, but it's metallic. So it really gives it a girly grunge type of a look. Thanks for joining me. That's it for this week. These are the tags that I made for the show. You can go to my blog here and see close-up pictures. You can also enter to win this week's prize on my blog as well. And this is this week's prize. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye! Baby break. He's not going to want to take a nap. He's wide awake and wanting to play. No. God bless you. The dogs are running by. That was dumb. I don't like that either. That are more kind of artsy. You just want to be in here. You just want to steal the show. Yeah. Okay, Zach, I got a tape to... That doesn't work either. Okay. Filming. Hunter's like, so? I don't care for filming. It's from ClearSnap. There go the dogs again. Using my mixed media inks embossing powders. Hi. Hi. Media inks and oops. Do over. Hi. Hi, it's you. Taking a bottle break. Close-up pictures. It's Grubby funny. It's so funny. Say bye.